So a federal judge in Washington, D.C. today issued an order that's not very long. It's only this long. And even though it's this short and it's this straightforward, I could not believe it when I first read it. I read it backwards and forwards and convinced myself this isn't what it said. But this is from Judge Emmett Sullivan. He's a Washington, D.C. federal judge. He is the judge in the Michael Flynn case. And in this little order, Judge Sullivan is now ordering the government, the prosecutors in this case, he's ordering them to remove all of the redactions from the Mueller report that have anything to do with the Mike Flynn case. This judge today says take out those redactions and then publish that unredacted version of Mueller's report. Quote, the government is ordered to file on the public docket in this case by no later than May 31st an unredacted version of those portions of the special counsel's report that relate to Mr. Flynn, signed Judge Emmett G. Sullivan. So, plot twist, right? Mueller's report gets released or gets submitted, right? And then it gets released to the public with redactions and under strange circumstances, right? We now know the Attorney General wouldn't release the summaries from the report, which Mueller's team had written specifically so those summaries could be released to the public. He refused to release those summaries and instead wrote up his own totally misleading characterizations of the report. We have since learned that Mueller and his team were furious about the way that Barr has mishandled their report, their document, their findings. Barr initially suggested that even the redactions in the report were all things that Robert Mueller wanted. It was just purely Robert Mueller's wishes. He later admitted under reluctant questioning that, okay, there may have been conflicts over the redactions and maybe the redactions don't reflect the way Mueller wanted this to come out. Mueller has still not been allowed to testify about his own findings or the handling of his findings by the administration, nor have any members of Mueller's team. The White House is saying they will not allow any witnesses who spoke to Mueller to testify to Congress, nor will they allow any documents about what Mueller found or investigated to be handed over. They've gone so far as to retroactively try to throw a fire blanket over the entire Mueller report, even after most of it was released to the public. They're now claiming the whole thing retroactively is covered by executive privilege, which is a weird assertion, but they're doing that specifically because they hope that gives them an extra tool so they don't have to let any more of it out, so they can try to prevent anybody from testifying about it or talking about it. And in the midst of all that today, surprise, here's Judge Sullivan saying, actually, I order you to release it. I hereby direct you in this court order to remove all the redactions that relate to my case, which is the Mike Flynn case, take all of that out, make this public, you've got 2 weeks. So I know the White House is doing everything they can to try to keep everything secret, to try to, stuff the toothpaste back in the tube. But look at how this is going now. The judge overseeing the Roger Stone case started off this week by herself getting an unredacted version of the Mueller report, at least as it pertains to everything having to do with WikiLeaks and Roger Stone and anything else that might touch that case that she is overseeing. That judge, Judge Amy Berman Jackson, has already had the Mueller report's redactions removed, so she can read the redacted parts as she oversees the Stone case. Now we've got another judge in the same district who's overseeing another Mueller-derived case, the Flynn case, ordering not just that he should get to see the redacted portions that pertain to his case, but he's ordering that we all get to see it too. That stuff has to be released to the public, even before the Flynn case is over, even before Flynn is sentenced. Again, this deadline from Judge Sullivan for the unredacted version of the Mueller report as it pertains to the Flynn stuff, the deadline for that stuff to be released to the public is a couple of weeks before there's even the next status report on Mike Flynn, let alone before he gets another sentencing date. So even before the Flynn case is wrapped, he's saying release everything in that Mueller report, unredact everything in that Mueller report that relates to Flynn. Do it. Court order. Today, literally, as I speak right now, members of the House Democrats in Congress are conducting a marathon live reading of Mueller's report. at least the portion of it that they have been allowed to see, right? The House Democrats started with this at noon. They've been going all day long, reading Mueller's report out loud. They're expected to go through the night and to maybe finish sometime tomorrow morning. That's actually a live shot right now. That's Mary Gay Scanlon. I will say I watched this on and off throughout the day. Shout out to Mary Gay Scanlon, also to newly elected freshman Democrat Val Demings, who's in her second term. They today have both been really, really good readers. They kind of make it sound like an even better movie than you might expect, even given the fact that in the report itself, we've got the president's lawyers threatening Mike Flynn in the dead of night and all that melodrama stuff. Some of these readers are very good. But the reason they're reading the report out loud is they're trying to stop the disappearing of this report. It also highlights the fact that not all of the report has been released. Yesterday was the subpoena deadline for the Justice Department to hand over the fully unredacted report to the Intelligence Committee, plus the intelligence information that was turned up in the course of the investigation. The Justice Department did not respond to that subpoena. They did not hand over any of that material. The Intelligence Committee Chairman Adam Schiff said today his committee will meet next week to discuss an enforcement action of some kind in response to the Justice Department defying that subpoena. The question of what happened to the counterintelligence investigation into, among other things, whether the president was acting as an agent of a foreign power, wittingly or unwittingly. That counterintelligence investigation is not really described at all in Mueller's report. The question of what happened to that investigation is becoming increasingly urgent as people wake up to the fact that Mueller appears not to have done it. We're going to have more on that coming up a little later on in the show. But one of the other things Schiff told reporters today is that when his committee meets next week to discuss this enforcement action in response to the Justice Department ignoring their subpoena, one of the other things he says they're going to do at that meeting is that they're going to release the most recent testimony that committee got from Michael Cohen, the president's longtime personal lawyer, who is now serving a federal prison sentence for, among other things, paying nearly $250,000 in hush money to two women right before the 2016 election to prevent those two women from describing alleged affairs with candidate Trump. Today, the president had to release his most recent financial disclosures. It was a nice reminder that the president has, in effect, confessed to his own role in those campaign finance felonies for which Michael Cohen is now serving his prison sentence. At least the president confessed to his role in those felonies to the extent that this time last year, when he put out his financial disclosures, he had to put in an amendment mentioning the payment he made to Michael Cohen to cover that illegal hush money stuff. Those payments which he had previously been both lying about to the public and keeping secret until Cohen's court case forced the president to retroactively add his accounting for his making those payments onto his own financial ledger. And today's financial disclosure from the president is interesting as far as it goes in terms of figuring out how his businesses are going and reading between the lines in terms of him accepting money from foreign governments and stuff. While he is required to release that financial disclosure, though, he has also hired a whole new team of lawyers to keep his real financial history and his taxes secret. We've been trying to figure out who's paying those lawyers. No one will cop to paying them. We don't know if that's the White House or the RNC or the Trump campaign or the Trump organization or the Trump family. Yeah, right? Is your elderly uncle who's been buying Make America Great Again merchandise from the Trump campaign website inadvertently funding the lawyers who are fighting to keep the president's taxes secret? I think he might be. Whoever's paying those lawyers' fees, those lawyers are now fighting subpoenas for the president's taxes and financial information in two different court cases involving Deutsche Bank and an accounting firm called Mazars. The idea of both of those court cases is quite clearly to try to stretch those fights out as long as possible, to delay as long as possible the prospect that any investigators, especially ones in Congress, might ever get a look at the president's actual finances and taxes. But you know what? I mean, subpoenas are a real thing. And the judicial process that, among other things, enforces subpoenas is a real thing. Tomorrow, another subpoena deadline will arrive. Tomorrow's the date by which the IRS and the Treasury are supposed to hand over the president's tax returns to the Ways and Means Committee in response to that committee's lawfully issued subpoena. We will see what happens tomorrow when that deadline hits, and we presume the Treasury Department and the IRS will stand in defiance of it. But we are at the point where the bluster and the defiance is starting to kind of hit the wall here. I mean, a federal judge just ordered the public release of whatever has been redacted from the whole Flynn section of Mueller's report. Right? They're all saying, no, the Mueller report, the redactions, you'll never get behind them, executive privilege. You know what? Court just ordered to release it. And I know they love the optics and they love the chest-pounding joy of saying they'll defy the Democrats and they'll defy Congress and they'll defy any kind of oversight, right? But now what are they going to do? Are they going to defy a federal judge? Are they going to defy a court order? Really? Stay with us.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.